Hello, I'm Kobe Kushner. I'm an analyst here at Red Cloud Securities. Thank you to our sponsor, WCPD Inc., for sponsoring the session. We're about to hear from Paul Sobie and Alec Rowlands of Churchill Resources. This is a battery metals company with a portfolio of high-quality projects throughout Canada, mainly nickel, but some other commodities as well. Paul, Alec, you have about 15 minutes, which will follow with 5 minutes of Q&A. Viewers, feel free to ask your questions at any time.
Great, thank you, Kobe, and welcome everyone. So Churchill is in the nickel space. We been a new listed company. We went public in June, so we've been trading for about 8 months now. The projects we acquired from Altius. We have two options going on right now. Both high potential properties and both high grade past results, which was very important to us. We're looking for nickel sulfides and specifically high grade nickel sulfides. Taylor Brook, our first project, is the one we've done the most work on. This is a Voisey Bay type target in Newfoundland. Florence Lake is in Labrador. And here we're looking at something that's more like Raglan or Thompson, volcanic hosted mineralization. As mentioned in both projects, high-grade results in the past, which we are following up on. The company has a clean capital structure. We've been private for 4 or 5 years, and we kept it very, very clean. Currently about 1.5 million in cash, no debt, very nice ownership structure. So we're working very, very hard and constantly on Taylor Brook. There's going to be a lot of news coming out on that project. And really the onus is that we've now established we're chasing something very large here, or potentially very large, and that is quite an accomplishment from just one surface showing. Florence Lake, we're just getting started on the VTEM, the EM survey will be flown in April, and we'll be following that up all summer and fall. And the company still has its 2 original diamond projects, which are now garnering some interest from the industry as the diamond sector has recovered fabulously from COVID, and we do entertain doing something with those diamond projects this year. The team is myself. I have a consulting background. I'm a geologist, 2 other experienced geos on the board, Bill Fisher, Kevin Tomlinson, but the most important person is this lady here, Dawn Evans Lambswood. She was at Voisey Bay from day 1. She is a nickel expert, specifically the type of nickel we're looking for. And she now leads our nickel projects. Taylor Brook, the first project, the one in Newfoundland, this is the one where there's a surface showing. This is my sample from October, so you can see it's high grade, net textured sulfides. And really what we've established here is that the known showing is really hosted by a discrete magnetic intrusive body. It outcrops in this location, but we've now established that it has immediate strike extent of 800 meters in that area, but in fact extends for kilometers. So we're very, very excited about following this up and chasing the high grade. We have not hit high grade yet, but we do have high confidence that we will moving forward. Florence Lake, as I mentioned, we're just getting started on, and then we'll continue to look into doing something corporately with the diamond projects. Share structure looks like this, very few warrants. I think we're trading in the high 20s now, so the market cap is a little bit higher. And, as I mentioned, a nice ownership structure. So the 2 properties, Taylor Brook, our original property, the qualifying transaction to go public is in Newfoundland, Western Newfoundland, Florence Lake, near Tidewater in Labrador, south of the Voisey Bay mine. This is nickel country. Voisey Bay and Raglan are to the north of us. And of course, we're on the edge of the Canadian shield here, the edge of the continent. And this is where all of North America's nickel deposits are, or virtually all of them. So we spent well over $1 million last year on Taylor Brook. And as I said, we've made some progress here in establishing that we're chasing something sizable. This is the discovery outcrop at Taylor Brook, and that's Dawn back in 2003 when she was with Inco. Inco came down to have a look at Altius's invitation. The mineralization style here shows up quite well. It's a breccia. So the high grade material is this dark stuff you're seeing, the rusty dark stuff. lower grade material. You can see its surrounding class of country rock. The host is this rock here, an ultramafic intrusive. Past workers thought this was a rather small dike hosting it. And now we've established, as I said, that it's part of a much larger intrusive body. And that's really the key point here. Newfoundland and Labrador, this is mining country. Newfoundland is very, very hot, obviously, in gold exploration. Our property is near the regional airport of Deer Lake. You can reach it very easily. I fly into Deer Lake and I'm at our camp in about an hour from the airport. There's regional highways and then logging roads onto the property. We've got power line coming right by. In fact, that's why this camp is there. It was put in at when they were building the power line down from Churchill Falls. Our drillers and our laboratory are in Springdale. So, you know, all aspects of infrastructure and keeping costs low are there. And of course, we're close to tidewater should we get to a development situation. So the geology, there's a huge layered intrusive here, a gabbro complex called the Taylor Brook Gabbro. And the original property we acquired from Altius was this one here. The known mineralization was just off the west edge of it. And it's out in the country rock. So it's out in the Grenville rocks, in gneisses and rocks like that. And past work had suggested that it was dike hosted, the mineralization. They intersected a very narrow dike with good grades and in 2 holes, and one other hole went into the Leyden showing itself and ran out of mineralization very quickly. And this to them suggested that it was a small body. But as mentioned, we've now established that it's a larger body and it's trending down this way. Mineralization looks like this in core, the high grade and the low grade. This is what the countryside looks like. It's low rolling hills, very good access. And as I mentioned, there's logging roads everywhere. That's Dawn in our core tent there, examining our first drill hole from 2021. So the big picture is very interesting. The edge of the Canadian Shield is here. The gabbro complex is there, and there's a gravity anomaly associated with the south end of this gabbro complex. That became very interesting to us, and we staked that. And the mineralization, as I mentioned, is just up to the northwest of it. When we look at the RMAG, so this is our magnetics now for the entire property, there's a very strong magnetic feature that correlates well with the gravity anomaly. This suggests there's something dense, there's something heavy, and there's something very iron and sulfide rich down there. So, you know, obviously we think it's some sort of stock feature that's feeding into the Taylor Brook Gabbro, but as well feeding up to the Leyden showing. And that's very important part of what we're chasing now. So this type of deposit model, they're called subhorizontal magma conduits. They're tubular quite often or funnel shaped, and the sulfides accumulate in the keel at the bottom of it. The most recent famous example is Norront's Eagle's Nest deposit. And this was a blade, and the sulfides all accumulated down at the bottom, but it was rotated up on its side such that the ore body is now vertically oriented. And of course, it's of primary interest to Wyloo, who paid $600 million for it. So it shows you what 20 million tons of high grade looks like, or is worth, I mean. And you know, that's one of the primary reasons we're looking for high grade here. We're not looking for low grade, massive deposits. A small high grade deposit could be every bit as valuable. Our own geophysics now over the property was showing that we have a lot of conductivity in the area of the known showing, and that's the conductors here. But this magnetic feature became our focus, and this is actually the intrusive that hosts the mineralization. The gabbro complex you can see is right here, the massive layered gabbro. In more detail, our VTEM survey, our EM survey, was showing that there's the mag anomaly, and we had some conductor plates of which one had been tested in the past, and that was those 2 good intersections. We were initially excited by this feature here, a larger plate right beside the mineralized plate, and we drilled 3 holes into it, and we don't have the assays yet. We also encountered narrow mineralization there hosted by a dike. So this feature became our primary interest. It's larger, it's mineralized. You can see that Altius did some trenching in the past where they were exposing mineralization, and it's become our primary focus. In more detail, when we did ground mag, what we found out was that it's offset. And this fault's very important in that the extension of this feature, which is trending this way, is now up here. So this becomes the next area for phased exploration. But what we were finding in the area of the known mineralization is that there's sort of an unaltered gabbro cap on top of intrusive mineralization. So we are seeing really, really nice intrusive horizons and blebs and structurally controlled mineralization, all at depth though in this feature. So it looks very much like the Leyden showing, which sits right there, but this is down below, down towards the keel of this feature. And so now what we're seeing with our borehole EM, and that's why we stopped in December, actually stopped drilling, is we had to get the borehole done, is we've got a lot of high conductive plates along the west side of this feature. And that is perhaps the keel or perhaps the bottom, we're not quite certain yet. But we now know that the best looking conductors are on this side. And this is going to become our focus for phase 2 when we start up in a month's time or so. We'll figure this out, we'll hit these conductors, and then we'll start to move along strike here across the fault. We have just recently received the VTEM results for this area and all to the south, and that's going to be a big part of what we're going to be chasing. So from this picture, you can see there's sort of a finger and a thumb feature, and there's our intrusive at Leyden. Well, that's up here now. And further along, you can see that we have this continuous shallow feature. We believe this is our conduit. This is our source rock. And this is what we're going to be chasing. It actually extends for about 8 or 9 kilometers down to that big gravity feature. But this is the immediate area that we'll be targeting with exploration this spring. A lot of strike extent, as you can see, it remains shallow. And the best analogy is really Talon's Tamarack deposit from what we know right now, where they have a shallow intrusive body and the mineralization is all along the bottom as one would expect. It also seems to congregate at areas where it's structurally complex, where there's folds. So our little flexure here between the finger and the thumb is quite an interesting feature we want to suss out. So a lot of news to come on Taylor Brook, and in fact, we had a press release today which just gave a geological update on where we are and all the work we've been doing, and what we're planning in the next phase. Florence Lake. Now this is the property that's up in Labrador, so this is a helicopter accessible situation, but it's very close to Infrastructu, and that's myself and Lawrence Winter, VPX of Altius, out there this summer. The past work had been done by Falconbridge mainly, and some very, very good results. I mean, if we can find more of this, we're well on the way to outlining a deposit. Its location is near the village of Postville and Hopedale. These 2 communities are serviced by flights and by ferry from Happy Valley Goose Bay. Boise Bay's about 180 kilometers to the north of us. So it's very, very reasonable. And in fact, we have tidewater coming into about 20 kilometers of the property. So this is very analogous to the Boise Bay logistical situation. The volcanic rocks here. So this is an entirely hosted or entirely different type of deposit. This is like Raglan or Thompson. These are volcanic belts. And we're looking at very, very old rocks here, and ultramafic volcanics are what we have. And these are where the nickel deposits or nickel sulfides will be found in this setting. Falconbridge's past work had been quite successful in the Bakey and DCP showing areas. That's where they did most of their drilling. And that's the area that, we're quite hopeful that VTEM is going to really help us figure out. We were out there this summer to look at the old showings. That's actually the original Bakey outcrop there, and that's the Altius Churchill team. The primary reason for our visit, though, was to recover the old core and resample that. And we got there in time before it had collapsed. We were able to sample the exact same intervals that Falconbridge had sampled. That's the team there doing the sampling. And this work was very successful. We confirmed the old numbers precisely or exceeded them in some respects with the other half of the core. So The next phase for us, obviously, is compiling. We've got Goldspot working on that, compiling all the old data right now. And then our VTEM survey, which was to have taken place in late fall, never got going. So it's now going to go in April. And this is needed because we only have MAG data and it's not very good over the property. So we'll be flying closely spaced VTEM surveys here, and we hope to see a bunch of conductor plates along these trends, which will become immediate targets for follow-up. The Bakey showing area was quite interesting based on past results, and as you can see, some of them were quite significant. It does appear that they were beginning to outline a channel, but they lost it at depth, and that's where we're hoping our state-of-the-art geophysics is really going to help us, both in terms of seeing deeper and seeing better along strike, and finding more of these types of features. They generally occur in clusters, as at Cambalda and Raglan and Thompson. So, it wouldn't surprise me that there are a number of these things within our belt. Our last property with nickel potential is called Pelly Bay, and it's actually our flagship diamond property. So it's up in Nunavut. It's on tidewater again. We always go for good infrastructure. And during the course of diamond exploration there in 2008, they made a nickel discovery. Quite high grade. It did not get much work after that, due to the economic situation in 2008 for juniors. And this one we have again put a lot of work into. Goldspot has compiled it from a nickel perspective for us. And it's not an active project, but it's one that has great potential both for nickel and diamonds. Our diamond properties, as I mentioned, they're very good. Pelly Bay has known diamondiferous kimberlites on tidewater in Nunavut. White River is near the Hemlo gold mine. There we have diamondiferous dikes. Both are garnering some attention now, so we do hope to get these things moving this year. And with that, I think I'll leave it. That is the company. We've got 4 very good projects. The focus is on the 2 nickel projects exclusively at this time. And, we're very, very excited about our follow-up programs, particularly Taylor Brook, that are about to get started. So I think I'll leave it there if that works.
Yeah, that's definitely works. We'll move on to the Q&A session. So thanks, Paul. You hinted at it in your presentation, but maybe tell us more about what your plans are for monetizing those diamond projects. Are you looking to sell or option them, or are you maybe looking to spin them out even?
Well, I think our ideal situation would be a spin out of Churchill Diamonds. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of Churchill Resources. So the private company is now owned by the public company. The diamond projects are exclusively within that entity. So it's a rather simple situation that we hope to capitalize on. But we're open to anything that would work for all parties.
Right. And how much money do you guys currently have in your treasury, and how much do you need to get through the next year and a half?
Right. Yeah, I meant to touch on that. So we have about 1.5 million in flow through, and a little bit more than that in hard dollars. But we basically have enough to get started to do phase 2 drilling at Taylor Brook and to do the VTEM survey at Florence Lake. We, will be needing more money in the midterm, I would say, but we've got enough to really get going and to generate some news.
Right, and with all the activity that's happening in 2022, are you guys looking to grow your team at all?
Yeah, essentially, we've got the senior people we need. The next person I'm going to hire will be the project manager for Florence Lake, actually. But other than that, it'll probably be board level additions to the team. We're 3 geologists right now, and we recognize that some other skills are going to be needed as we move the company forward and grow it.